episode of the Wild Mystery Podcast appears, where we discuss mysteries, histories, and today, conspiracies.
Ooh.
I'm your host, Belle.
And I'm your co-host, Ollie.
Today, we are reviewing the case of the Qalupalik.
I'm glad you said that first, because I didn't know how to pronounce it.
You were like, oh, this is...
Like, oh, that one. Yes. The one that is that.
That's how that's supposed to sound.
Yeah.
I think.
So, today's content warnings are conspiracy theories, urban legends, sea monsters, and cryptids. Which
dun, dun, dun. It's our first cryptid! It's our first cryptid.
Oh my god, why do I feel like we've done cryptids before?
I don't know. Because I'm like, we haven't really gotten into like ghosts, paranormal, or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I think it'd be fun to kind of...
I was watching Mr. Ballin on YouTube.
I
love him, yeah.
Love his channel.
He
does it so good.
And, okay,
he's my goal.
We're gonna go way off topic for a second here.
Oh, absolutely, because it's a really short episode, so
yeah.
Hello, filler.
The way that he does the asking you to like it, as you know, pranking
yes!
the like button. Usually I'm like, and every now and then he gets me.
He
and
gets
I'm
a
just,
real
like,
stinker in there.
Debilitated.
I'm like, I have to pause.
Yeah,
because I'm like laughing.
I can't even
so hard.
pay attention to this murder that I'm supposed to be listening to
right?
because I'm laughing so hard.
There was one episode that he did, and I think I sent it to you, but like I still think of this episode like frequently. Headless Valley. Did you ever?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I think about that shit all the time.
There's one where a teenager, his dad dies, and so he's going to stay in the woods in the cabin before they sell it.
Mm-hmm.
And this thing is like stalking him and climbing up on the roof and stuff. I can't.
Yeah,
I can't listen to it at night.
I shouldn't listen to that considering I go out to a cabin where we have. It's like, look, there's things in the wilderness you just don't fuck with.
Yep.
And it's universally acknowledged truth. You don't fuck with the creepy shit.
The point I was trying to make was that I was listening or watching one of his episodes. I'm gonna keep doing that.
Yeah.
Watching one of his episodes, and it was about like a disappearance or a murder that had a tie to the paranormal or to cryptids or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I should send that to Belle.
Yeah.
It's also kind of like you probably listened to it, so
maybe I haven't listened to his stuff in a while, and it's not that I feel bad
then...
about. Yeah, the last one like I actively remember watching was the one that we had talked about, where the guy had been shot in the police department and like never noticed.
That is a fucking wild one. Yeah,
that was crazy, absolutely bonkers. Yeah. And I'm like, that's the last one like I actively remember watching.
Well, I take a break on YouTube for like months at a time, and then I come back and catch up on everything, and then like leave again,
just disappear again.
Yeah,
my thing is
how I do social media in general.
Yeah, I'm a habitual rewatcher.
Yes, yeah.
And I like my series that I like for no other reason than they bring me dopamine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just how I live my life, is just following the dopamine.
Yeah.
Do you like my explanation on how to pronounce it?
Yes.
I was like, I think that works.
Qalupalik.
So, what is the Qalupalik? The Qalupalik is a mythical creature from the Inuit people in Alaska. Now, mind you, Inuit people, not just in Alaska. The Inuit of Alaska are the Inupiat, who live in the Northwest Arctic Borough, the North Slope Borough, and the Bering Strait region within Alaska. Basically, the very northernmost part of Alaska. Yeah. Like, when you look at a map...
as if anybody can see.
Right? It's like, so when you're looking at a map of Alaska, it is literally the topmost portion.
Is that kind of northwest?
Yeah. It's like the top... Well, I mean, it's like, it really is honestly just like the top, like, 1/4.
Okay.
Of Alaska, right? I'm so happy somebody else does that. So for those who might not like be in Alaska, Alaskans do this thing. So just like I think Florida does it too, you can make the shape of the state with your hand. So basically, I'm going to do my best to describe this. So basically, you put your palm out, like outwards of your body, so the top of your hand is facing your chest, and then you curl in your middle, ring, and pinky finger. And you basically have, so your pointer finger is sticking straight out and your thumb is sticking straight out, and it kind of looks like the shape of Alaska. So if you're ever referencing like a part of the state, I always just like make the hand shape and I'm like, oh, it's in this general vicinity, and point to a part on my hand. So basically your pointer finger is like the Aleutian Islands, the your thumb is like southeast Alaska, which is like where Juneau is, and then obviously the rest of it is the rest of Alaska.
Yeah.
And it's just a really interesting thing that I find that Alaskans do.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate it because it makes me so happy when somebody else does it. Because I'm like, yay, I'm not alone in me being weird.
Yes.
I love and I hate Alaska because some of our city names,
yeah.
For example, Ukqiavik is the northernmost city in Alaska, and that is within the Inupiat region. The language for the Inuit is Inupiaq, and they live most commonly in Canada, Greenland, and Alaska. They also live in Denmark, but it was like the Greenland people of Denmark, and I was like, what? So I was like, I'm not touching that. That's confusing. There are actually 65,000 Inuit people in Canada. 88% of the people who live in Greenland are Inuit, which is 50,000 people. So there's 57,000 people in Greenland, and 88% of them are Inuit. I had no idea. And only 16,000 people in Alaska. Like most Alaska Native tribes, the Inuit have an incredibly beautiful culture, history, and artistry, and make crafts that are just gorgeous. And again, like many other Native people, they use as much of the land as possible. And when hunting animals, they use as much of that animal as possible out of respect for nature and the animals that they were killed. Because, and I'm making a generalization here because I feel like a lot of Alaskan people who are either live in Alaska or are born and raised in Alaska but are not Alaska Natives kind of hold this belief as well. Most tend to believe that they have like a spirit, and then if you respect that animal, then that spirit can go in peace.
Mm-hmm.
But if you disrespect that animal, then it's like, it's bad juju. Now, by doing this, by taking care of these animals, they are able to make important materials and reduce unnecessary waste. Another kind of cool fact about Alaska is that there's a practice when hunting either caribou or moose that unsavory parts like the pelt, the nether region, or other organs that the general public might not use are donated and then turned into one of the many Alaska Native tribes to be used. I don't know if you knew that.
I did not, but it doesn't necessarily surprise me.
Yeah.
This is part of why it pisses me off so much that like there are a lot of people that are like stop whale hunting and stuff like that, and I'm like,
hi, welcome to Alaska.
For industries,
yeah,
sure,
absolutely.
As an industry, yeah. As something that Native people do, which again, a lot of people target Native tribes when they are saying stop whale hunting.
Mm-hmm.
The Native tribes are not your problem.
No, and like, they've always had a general understanding for like population control.
Yeah.
Which is basically what a lot of hunting is. And I think Alaska's like fish and game, first of all, Alaska's fish and game department, off the chain. Mm. They're really good at what they do.
Yeah.
In a like freaky, like actually involved government kind of way. Like it's really impressive.
Answer the phone and know what they're talking about.
Probably. There's a whole story behind that statement. But like talk about it. They will straight up dress in like plain clothes and like go just like up talking to people, because it's like, obviously general like hunting rules and stuff, or hunting and fishing rules, it's like you have to have your permit and your license on you like at all times, no matter what.
Yeah.
And
like driving.
Exactly. And so they'll come up to you and they'll start talking about like, oh, what you catching here today, da 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 da, and they're like, cool, fish and game, let me see your license. And it's a whole like
undercover
thing.
Cops.
It's hilarious, but it's actually really interesting. But if you don't, like, for fishing, like once you catch a fish, you're supposed to clip the fins. They're already dead when this happens, but it shows that you've logged them. But if for some reason like you are transporting fish. So, like, for example, this weekend I'm going down fishing with my family, and my catch is not going to be with me in my vehicle. It's going to be with my sister and her husband. They have to hold my fishing license because my catch is going to be recorded on my fishing license, and therefore that fishing license has to be with that fish. It's a whole thing. It's actually really interesting.
Yeah.
But I really like fishing and hunting in Alaska because it's like we have recovery laws as well for like moose that are unfortunately hit on the road. This is going to turn into a whole like introduction to Alaska hunting and fishing podcast brought to you by Belle. I told you I was an outdoors lady. But like other states, and this drives me insane, like Colorado do not have like recovery laws. Like if a deer is hit by like a train or a vehicle, it just lays there until animal control can come like recover it. Alaska, we straight up have a like phone tree call system that's like, oh, if a moose is killed by a vehicle in this part of the road, they straight up have a list of people that they call down and be like, hey, do you want this meat? It's a fucking salvage crew for meat. It's insane. It's really interesting. Actually, my dad is on one of them.
Yeah. There's something that I do enjoy a lot about Alaska is that we are trying very hard. Obviously, and you know this if you've ever taken Alaskan history classes, which
if you're not from here, then what reason
probably
would
not.
You have?
But we have historically, as white people, treated the tribes in Alaska
like garbage.
Pretty shit.
Most American peoples who
there were, if you don't know this, there were straight up fucking, I mean, not concentration camps for tribes, but we kind of just like during World War II, we kind of took all the tribes and we evacuated them from their homes.
Mm-hmm.
We stuck them in little like camping sites basically and just left them there. Like no one there to make sure that they were being fed and
cared for,
staying alive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not enough housing for all of the people that were there.
Mm-hmm.
And we just like left them there. And I think I remember from the class that they didn't all necessarily know when the war had ended. Like they were not kept updated. So they didn't know when they could return home. And when they could return home, they didn't know that.
Yeah.
And how are they supposed to get there, Like,
yeah, like, we are the ones who moved them out of there. I mean, it's just straight up.
This isn't what I like about Alaska, by the way.
Yeah. This is, unfortunately, Alaska, it does have a very similar history to the rest of the American people.
Yeah.
Where we were like, oh yeah, we bought Alaska from Russia. Cool, it's ours now. Not even thinking about like whose land that it was before we ever came up here.
Yeah, and I wonder, I think, is this just me, or do you also feel like we just bought it because it gave us a good kind of
strategic advantage?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Japan. No, absolutely. Yeah. Which, speaking of this, I'm sorry, we have to address this. Did you see what Putin's cabinet was like saying on like online?
No.
So basically his cabinet, I don't remember which person, I'm not going to name drop because I don't want to be assassinated, was like, oh, just, when US lawmakers consider, actions against Russia, I'm generalizing here from memory, it's like, just remember that we still have a piece of US territory, referring to Alaska. And Governor Dunleavy was like, I shit you not, on Twitter was like, for the Russian people who, or, for the Russian politicians who think that they can take Alaska back, good luck. This is an actual tweet. And I'm like, to be fair though,
Russia has many more people in it than Alaska, though, Dunleavy. Can we, like...
Well, but here's the thing, though. They thought it was hard taking Ukraine. Can you imagine them trying to take Alaska? Honest to God. Can you imagine them trying?
But I think there's this... I spent about a year in Russia once, and I was called a bitch because I was from Alaska. And it turns out that there was this whole thing where, like, they send a ship over to get the payment for Alaska, right?
Mm-hmm.
We put the payment on the ship and we send it back. And then the ship sank. So Russia never got the payment. So there are a lot of Russian people. Yeah. So
I didn't know.
Yeah. This is a thing. So there are a lot of like, and this was a Russian person sat me down after I was called a bitch for being from Alaska, and he was like, okay, listen, this is the thing. You guys paid us. You have the receipt. Like, we literally have a receipt.
Right.
But it never got to us. So there are a lot of Russian people who are like, we were never paid for Alaska.
But they were.
Therefore, it belongs to us.
Yeah.
They were. It was in Russian custody when it sank. You know?
So y'all could have very easily sent a rescue mission or a recovery mission.
So there is that thing that there are a lot of Russian people who do believe that Alaska should still belong to them.
Rocket, sweetie.
Yeah.
Sweetie bird. What you doing? Come here. Can you be a little less loud? Come here.
But what I do like about Alaska is that I feel like there are a lot of places in the U.S. that shall remain unnamed who look at their history of the way that we have treated Japanese people, the way that we have treated Native or the First Nations people, and just kind of go, we did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Or who are like, that was our ancestors.
Our
we
stuff
are under
was justified.
Yeah. We are under no obligation to make up for the mistakes of our ancestors. We are. And we should. Yes. And that is something that we are actively attempting to do in Alaska. And there is a lot of like, the native court system is different. Or the tribal court system, I think I should say. They have tribal custody instead of state custody.
We apologize for the background jingling. It's Rocket playing with a toy, and I'm not going to tell her to stop the second time. Well, and like, we have, it's, don't at me, it's literally called this, the Native Health Corporation. And it's, our...
What gets me is Indian. And there are laws that are called like in Indian land, and I just cringe.
Did I ever tell you about one of my first things at the state where I had to draft something about like being sensitive to like, so basically the people that I work with go into these communities to help and offer aid, training, vaccines. They do a bunch of stuff in that general line of work. There's a lot of community involvement. Now, what's involved in that is being sensitive to the fact that if they don't want our help, then they don't want our help. We can offer what we can, but if they don't trust us, if there's not a rapport there, which they have more than good reason to not trust
the state.
Trust the state, trust people.
The Muni, especially not the Muni.
Right.
Don't get me started on the goddamn Muni. I'll fight someone.
The gloves are coming off. And so, but they asked me to write it because I was like, lived here my entire life. I want to clarify. I'm 99.9% white. I have literally done ancestry tests. I am damn near as white as you can get. My family history is from Europe.
Yeah.
I get it. I was like, are you serious? You seriously asking? But mind you, I was born and raised in Alaska. But that does not make me an Alaska native. Makes me a native Alaskan, not a Alaska native. And I was like, you're seriously gonna... And I shit you not, someone referred to Alaska Native Peoples' lands as reservations, and I saw red. I somehow... Now, mind you, this person is from New Jersey. They didn't know. I explained it calmly. They've never said it again. But I was like, oh my God, that's not Jesus.
I had someone when I was going to school in Georgia, they said something like, referring to, the native people, they were like, Eskimos or Inuit, I don't know the difference. And I was kind of like, oh no. Oh no, honey.
Honey, no.
The difference is there isn't a difference.
But Eskimo's offensive.
Yes. The difference is, say Inuit, but it's the same people.
Yeah.
Because Eskimo is a
derogatory term.
Yeah, for the Inuit people.
Now, mind you, just like a certain other word, there are a lot of people who are Inuit who refer to themselves as Eskimo. That's okay because they are that people's.
Mm-hmm. But we are super duper white, so.
Yeah, no, it's I don't want to get shanked in a parking lot.
Yeah. But we have, like, I know the office that I am with, we have to make certain, we have certain percentages, I guess, that we have to meet for how we are working with how many native organizations that we are working with, tribal organizations. But the tribal organizations obviously do not have the same requirements.
No.
They are allowed to, like, we can go up to them and be like, hey, we have XYZ services to offer and we would really like to work with you. And they can say, they are perfectly within their rights to say,
fuck
we
you.
Don't trust you. Fuck you. Luckily, from what I've seen, a lot of the tribal organizations are really willing to work with at least our office. Oh my goodness. My skittish cat just let Belle touch him.
Hi, buddy.
But it is, that is something that I really like, that we are trying so hard. Like, I know in our office, we just ordered? We just hired a tribal liaison.
Right on.
Yeah, who's native, I'm fairly certain. And is kind of trying to help establish that rapport with tribal organizations that are just that we have failed spectacularly and who don't trust us.
Yeah, I'm trying to rebuild.
Yeah. And at this point, that is something that I really, really like about Alaska, is that we have tribal people have so much control, legally speaking, about tribal
their state, because it's their fucking state.
They have their own custody. They have their own, like, assistance for certain, for low-income families. They have all of that kind of stuff, and it it is really cool to me that we have that in place.
Yeah, it's because it's like respect for them, because this was their land first.
Yeah, and they should be the ones handling all of that kind of stuff, especially when it comes to things like custody and court.
No, we don't
they
get
have.
I
was looking. I have this question the other day that I didn't know the answer to, so I was looking up a bunch of
information,
tribal stuff afterwards. And they have this thing where if a tribal person has to go to court for whatever reason, they can have a I forget what they're called. They can basically have it's not an attorney, but it is a person associated with the law.
Like tribal defense, kind of?
Not really, because it's not a defender.
Yeah.
They're basically their job is to be there and to make sure this person is being treated fairly, that their cultural differences are being respected. And
that's really
the language
cool.
barrier
I didn't know
is
that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It's very cool, yeah.
That's really interesting. But, enough about how cool Alaska is, and moving back into the Qalupalik. Now, most cultures have a version of the boogeyman. And the Inuit have the Qalupalik. Similar to the boogeyman, the Qalupalik was said to kidnap misbehaving children. And like most of these legends, there was a reason for this legend. It did help keep children away from the ice or thin bodies of water. Or what the fuck? It helped keep children away from thin ice or bodies of water. The sea monster was said to take children that were alone near the water or the edge of the ice, and then it would then stuff them into its, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, a mautik, which is an article of clothing worn by Inuit women to carry their children before subsequently drowning those children. As with most similar legends, there are some contradicting reports as to the appearance and gender of the Qalupalik.
I just want to know what it looks like.
Yeah. These are a very pretty version of it. Yeah. Aren't those beautiful?
They're so cute. Hi, buddy.
Kepler hopped up on the table.
And we will post pictures of these.
Yeah.
They're adorable.
They're so cute. As with most similar legends, there are contradicting reports as to the appearance and gender of the Qalupalik, though they're always humanoid in nature. Some translations use the pronoun he, but others describe the creature as she, a feminine creature who uses children to maintain her long, flowing hair. In some recordings, the creature has elongated fingernails and green, slimy skin. The closest mythological creature that we can equate the Qalupalik to is a mermaid. They are often depicted as having fins coming out of their heads, backs, and torsos. And another description of the Qalupalik is that their hands, though webbed, are clawed and made for hunting. They are also rumored to smell like sulfur and wear eider duck clothing. And one of the warning signs, if they are near the shore, is a humming noise. Basically like a northern siren, kind of. The humming is a warning that the Qalupalik is near, and it's supposed to entice curious children so that they come closer to the edge of the shore so that it can steal them away. However, the threat doesn't just disappear if you're away from the shore. Sometimes they were said to knock under the ice so as to draw a child to a weak part of the ice or a hole so that they could steal them.
I wonder, because there are some things like there's a monster in Japanese folklore that folklore that whistles to get people's, or that whistles to get children to come near, and that was come up with because there were traffickers that would whistle to entice children to come closer to them so that they could kidnap them. I wonder if there is anything, maybe when ice groans, it sounds like humming or something like that, or it sounds like tapping.
Because there is, up at our cabin in the winter, and I've never personally heard this, but I believe my source is that one night when the ice was freezing, it straight up sounded like a whale.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
of the ice groaning and cracking, and it's Alaska's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah, and I could see cracking ice during breakup season sounding like tapping.
Yeah, I could see it. So
maybe when you step on ice that's starting to melt, it sounds like humming. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I know what you're saying. I'm just like trying to think of an instance where I've done that, and I'm like, did it sound like humming? I don't know. It's really interesting. So now here's the thing. I could not find any like reports of this. Like, I couldn't find any news articles where it's like, oh, this person claimed that they saw this or that, whatever. What originally drew me to the Qalupalik was actually a YouTube video from the History Channel, and I encourage you to watch this video. It's called Missing Alaska, Vicious Arctic Mermaid Attacks, full episode, season 1, episode 8, and it's from the History Channel. So we're going to watch it, and we're going to get a live commentary from Ollie, because I have already seen this, but it's entertaining.
Now that you've said the whole name,
did I say
I've heard of it. What?
I'm so confused. Did I say that you had seen it? I'm so sorry.
No, you said I didn't.
Oh, okay.
I haven't.
Okay. So, I'm hoping that this audio feedback isn't horrible. I don't know how this is going to go.
You got closed captions on, so you can turn it down a bit. He jumped. Okay. Because here's the thing. First of all,
by himself with his friend. Friend went missing. Claims it was a sea monster.
That's on the assumption he saw, like, this is a real story, he saw what he says he saw. Mm-hmm. If he already knew about this legend and maybe believed it, our minds will tell us, I saw, like, my friend fell overboard and I saw what looked like the tail of something. They will fill in the blanks. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, our mind makes unconscious connections.
But the biggest deal from that is the man's body was never found. It was in the fucking ocean, my dude. Like, right? That was the ocean?
They said off the coast.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially there.
It gets better. I told you. You mean the triangle that literally covers the literal and most of the population of Alaska?
We may need to cover the idea of the Alaskan triangle just because it's just so for stupid.
Funsies. Just for funsies.
Animal so noises. Who's just having fun. A true believer, I'm sure. Also just having fun. Or the two of them are fucking with the one. Which I would enjoy.
I would make that show.
Yeah. I would also absolutely kill for, like, a show where a white person goes into tribal land and the tribal people just fuck with them. Like,
oh, I would kill for that.
Yeah.
That's reality.
That would be TV so
right
funny, there. Yeah. Bonus points if it's always someone from, like, Florida or Texas or somewhere as far away from Alaska as possible. DC. They're wearing some extremely unattractive life jackets. No, it doesn't. Especially the famous people. I don't believe them. Wait, Triton?
I'm trying to think if they mean, like, Poseidon's son Triton? Or, like, because I can't remember his name, the, Titan Triton.
Okay. I don't know. Who knows?
I'm pretty sure it's Poseidon's son.
Dude, what the fuck is that? This picture that they're showing has a mermaid with a tail and stubby, itty bitty, tiny little, like, human legs. Yeah. His face, like he's never heard it before.
He's like, you're fucking with me, right?
Yeah, this guy is on the... No, that guy's on the level. The former police officer, yeah.
He's like...
Yeah. Like, as far as you can get... They have them at the aquarium. Oh my god. What? They do look funky and hilarious. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Especially if you just caught a glimpse. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know you guys probably can't hear this, but they're talking about how fishing equipment you can get caught in fishing equipment and pulled overboard.
Yep.
Especially if it's mechanical.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. And if you're alone.
Yep.
Yep.
It's very easy.
On top of that, even if seals can pull you overboard.
Yep. Even if you're on the spit, just dip netting, riptide, a wrong riptide catches you, pulls you under. It's crazy. Like I said, not for the faint of heart.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the cop just being like, this probably isn't...
razor.
The cop and the expert.
Alaska expert.
Yeah. Both being like, yeah. Probably not a monster. I'm just enjoying the acting.
Buddy.
They're staying very close to the water for people who are afraid of the water.
Mm-hmm.
I love the word ichthyologist.
I would also like to point out, I've never been to Juneau, but it also didn't look like they were driving in Juneau.
Yeah. I am calling bullshit on this particular ichthyologist.
Kepler. Buddy. Dude. Get out of there. He let me pick him up, by the way.
Ooh. Salmon shark look horrifying. Look at their big fucking eyes. Look at that eyeball.
Yeah.
Yes. They're also limited to places where people live. Because, okay, here's the other thing, is that when you talk about green in terms of sea creatures, it is not the same green that it's not like vivid green, you know? It is a green that you can mistake for other colors very easily. So this, if it's constantly a green tail, like, it's like, and also memories when it comes to things like this are transient in a way.
Power of suggestion.
Yeah.
It was the only thing I agree with. And if you were able to pick that up, that is how you actually pronounce it in the language. I'm pronouncing it white people way.
Yeah. That is an excellent example of a tribal person fucking with a white person. Yes, I love it. Because my thing with this is like, he was saying, the ichthyologist, who I have doubts about, was saying most other animals would just take the whole fish. Why wouldn't a monster take the whole fish, you know?
The only thing I can think... Kepler.
Where is he?
Naughty boy.
Boy.
He's doing the whole, I'm not paying attention. No, it's okay. He got down.
Okay.
He was doing the whole... Y'all hear something? Anyway, my apologies. Continue.
That was pretty much it, yeah.
Yeah. I just... Like, the only thing I can think of that would, like, make their theory, like, relevant to me is, like, maybe they started reeling or, like, bringing in the line right as it, like, bit, but that's awfully convenient.
Yes, yeah.
And 2 days before...
that could happen with any animal, not just a monster.
Well, and they were like, oh, yeah, we contacted the Missing Alaska team 2 days after this happened. That seems real convenient.
Yeah.
Here's my issue with these channels as well, is that they have this thing where they have the main people on the show explain it back to the people who literally gave them the information.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it angers me on, like, a visceral level.
Salmon are hilarious. No. The cop is like, I think I picked the wrong job.
Notice anything? July in Juneau? Why is it so dark?
Yeah.
Hello, land of the midnight sun. What the shit? Fake ass. I'm so mad. It took me a minute. And also, the other thing, when we get to this point, you know, they were like showing the video of, you know, when they pulled the fish out of the water. If it's peak fishing season in Juneau, where's all the other boats? Yeah. If you've never seen fishing boat launch in Alaska, it is a competitive sport. Oh, Jesus, stop bringing up the Alaska Triangle.
That does look kind of like Seward, though. I'll give them that.
Yeah, it looks like Seward, but they're supposed to be in Juneau.
Also a good point, yeah.
I love that he says predator, not the Qalupalik.
Mm-hmm.
Because, rational.
Yeah. He's fucking with him.
Welcome to Alaska's waters. Ooh. Ooh.
I'm with her, just on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, that really does not look like the Port of Juneau. Sea lion is my bet.
Pretty sure.
That looks like Juneau.
So, yeah. That looked like Seward, though.
I don't think they were spending their whole time in Juneau.
Yeah, not exactly a lot to see there.
In Alaska. Or a sea lion.
She don't care.
No.
Oh.
She's like, I'm on TV.
Someone who could not be bothered.
Like me. That's a whale.
Yeah.
My friend.
Bitch, it's a humpback whale. Appreciate the nature.
And the other two are like, ugh, we still have a long night ahead of us.
There are 3, 5.
Yeah. Can I?
I'll give you a minute.
Okay, I'm fine.
It's pronounced
Kenai.
It's pronounced Kenai. Kenai Peninsula.
Jesus.
I had to pause it my first time around, and I was like, "Fucking Kenai!"
Valid reaction, yeah.
He just happened to hear the legend of the Qalupalik.
And how deep do you get in the water?
For a riptide to catch you for something that you're looking for in the sand.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
Not correct.
Like, the other footage, I was like, okay, maybe they waited until like 3 in the goddamn morning.
But this
to get like 10 minutes of footage,
Yeah.
That looks very, very dark.
So to clarify, what is the current sunset time in Juneau, Alaska?
In Juneau today, the sun will set at 9:47 p.m.
What is sunrise in Juneau, Alaska?
In Juneau tomorrow, sunrise is at 4:22 a.m.
It is currently July 18th. I would also like to point out for the record, it still does not get pitch black in Anchorage. And our sunset and sunrise is later because we're farther up.
Yeah.
It's
a nightmare.
It's hard
to try
to
and sleep at this time of the year.
It's hard to explain if you have never seen it before. But
yeah, like the sun sets, but it doesn't get that dark. Because the other two are like, we just can't. We can't. I mean, the thing is, when it's dark, you kind of just see in black and white anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it looks edited.
It does look edited.
It's not as blurry as the rest of the footage.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? It doesn't look like it's moving in the water the way it should.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's cutting through the water. It looks like it's overlaid over the water. It looks so fake.
Yeah. I'm going with, it's fake.
I mean, that pretty much... no, there's another part of this that I can...
And they also could be editing the footage to make it look darker.
Mm-hmm. They look miserable.
Yeah.
Welcome to Alaska. It's cold on the ocean.
It's cold and wet and always light out.
In the summer, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in the winter, it's cold, wet, and no light.
I mean, that looks massive. I mean, that looks more like it was done by logs or rocks or something. More likely logs.
Well, I can honestly say if someone who was fishing for a living had that kind of damage on their boat unexpectedly, they would be a lot more pissed about potential damage to their boat.
Yeah. They weren't using it before? Bro, what's the point? If it exists. Tommy, at this point, I'm enjoying how he's just like, Jesus Christ. These goddamn white people.
The white people. Not smoother waters for them today, though.
Yeah. The close in. Dramatic zoom in.
Mm-hmm.
Did he call it an orange ball? He called the buoy an orange ball. At this point, the captain is probably really regretting inviting them on his boat.
Yeah. That's why you wear gloves.
Yeah. See, he looked upset for a second there, and then it looked like he was like, okay, I'm on camera.
Mm-hmm. Explaining it back to the people who literally told you about it. Just saying.
This legend has been around for a while, my dude.
Yeah. We're almost done.
See, that's the other... He made my point. Like, if it's preying on humans, why the fuck wouldn't we know? Especially children.
That basically closes that out. But
well, the other thing is with the ocean, yes, lots of stuff there have been undiscovered. I am more inclined to believe deep sea creatures than things like that would be preying close to the surface.
Yeah.
And with things like that, you would have survivors. And they would definitely get those people on to tell their bullshit stories.
Yeah, absolutely. But and then it's like for me to not, I literally was like anything to do with, Qalupalik, and I found nothing.
Yeah.
No news stories, no local reports, nada.
Because in Alaska we understand it's a legend.
Yes. And or at the very least it's something that was created by the Inuit people to help keep their children safe from dying.
And that is something that every culture has.
So, I mean, for me, I do not think that anything like shows definitive proof of the Qalupalik, because I really do agree with you. If it were something that did exist and were preying on children or even adults now, one, there would likely be survivor accounts. Two, there would be a lot more reports of it. Or weird instances.
And my thing with the especially children thing is that we, there is a certain amount of, if somebody, like there's kind of a ranking system in who gets attention in a missing persons case.
Oh, and kids are top of the thing.
White female children are at the top of that list.
Yes.
And then, children in general are also at the very top of that list, even if they are like,
of a different race.
Yeah.
Of a different color, ethnicity.
Immigrants, things that are traditionally
children of crackheads.
Yeah.
Which is a really bad example, but sure, we'll go with
and
that.
Then the younger the child, the more attention it's going to get.
Yes. There's teenagers and
then you get into like adult men of color, and they are not going to get very much attention, probably.
Or people who work in quote unquote unethical jobs, i.e. prostitution.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden all the respect for someone who is a person and has a life goes away. It's stupid.
But if something was preying on children,
we would know.
Yeah.
There would be a lot more research.
I don't know how many, you're not on Facebook. But, if you follow the Anchorage Daily News, they post pretty much... Yeah. Sometimes. On...
Fair enough.
The Anchorage Daily News, they post something pretty much when anybody in Alaska goes missing.
Yeah, whether and especially, or not they're... sometimes they'll even post of people who have moved out of Alaska.
Or are visiting, or...
Yeah.
They will,
They're actually pretty good about it.
Yeah, and for children, they will post when the child goes missing, They will post updates. They will post when the child is found.
Yep.
Hopefully when they are found.
Yes.
So I find it difficult to believe that something would be preying on children, causing children to go missing and die, and we wouldn't know.
Yeah, we wouldn't know about it. Yeah. I don't think there's enough proof for it to be a substantial theory. I think it's really interesting. And I like your humming theory. The next time I'm snow machining, I'll have to
I'm unsure about the humming, but I mean, I was also thinking
it's also
it could be
what level
the
of
way
humming.
the way that the wind moves
Whistles.
Across certain things can sound like all sorts of fucking noises, you know?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So my theory on that is that it was the way that something sounded when it was dangerous.
Yeah. Which I've also never been up on the North Slope either. So.
And I definitely think it's very, very likely that ice cracking sounded like the tapping.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think.
Sorry.
So I think that brings us to the end of today's episode.
I want to, before we end this episode, apologize for how late last week's episode is. I still haven't posted it.
Yeah.
As
we just skipped a week. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's alright.
I'll post the cat picture to make up for it.
Right. Yeah, which we've got a real fun one for you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Which I'm sure will have already been posted by then, which you can check out on our Instagram, which is, I believe... Okay.
It is
which
just
you can
a
check
Wild
it
Mystery
out.
Podcast appears.
Yep. A Wild Mystery Podcast appears.
And when you're typing that in, know that we also hate it.
Yep. And we're probably going to change it eventually. We might change it before next season. I don't know.
Just doing AWMPA actually might be good.
Yeah, I think so. So anyway, be sure to check us out on Instagram at A Wild Mystery Podcast appears, where that picture of sweet kitty cat is already posted by the time that this episode airs. We thank you for listening to today's episode of A Wild Mystery Podcast appears. This has been the review of the Alaska Qalupalik and just a little bit of a Alaska history lesson.
We hope that you join us next week and check out our social media to see notes or pictures from today's episode. Stay safe.